Hey, welcome to Hockey Books and Storytellers, everybody. Craig and I are really pleased to have a very special guest with us. He's got a collection, I believe, of over 4,000 hockey books. And as far as I know, that is the largest collection in Canada. We'll have to ask him about that. And the only problem we have is that he's a Habs fan, which we consider a character defect. So please welcome to the show, Nathan Lajoie. Hey, Nathan, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How you guys doing?
Hi, bud. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It's a great night, fellas. I just checked. The Leafs are losing 4-1, so it's a good start to the night.
Oh, good. Who are they playing?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, they're struggling. There's some surprises this year. My Canucks are surprisingly good. Craig's Oilers are surprisingly inconsistent, and
We might not want to talk about that.
Calgary. How's Montreal doing?
I mean, it's the expectations were pretty low to start the year. We've actually won a couple games, surprisingly that I wasn't really expecting to win. So we'll take as many wins as we can at this point.
How much of that do you put on St. Louis as far as getting them prepped and the mind part of it?
Yeah, he's very much from everything I've read, he's very much a player's coach. He seems like he's almost like a father figure to these players. He's like more of like a dad figure than a coach, and like he still obviously coaches very well, but I think it's just the personal relationships that he has with his players, and the players seem to love playing for him. So a lot of it's mental, right? So.
Anyway, let's get talking about your book collection here, Nathan.
Yeah.
Am I right in that it's 4,000 books? Is that right?
I'm about 60 pieces away from hitting the 5,000 mark. Actually,
wow.
That's including. So the hockey book portion of the collection, it's just over 2,000 books. When I say it's about 5,000 items, that's including the entire run of the hockey news as well, plus other magazines, publications, this and that. It all basically every single issue. Well, yes, every single issue of the hockey news from 1947 to present day, plus the books. And I think I'm like 65 items away from hitting 5,000 total pieces, and knowing my pace, I'll hit that in like 2 days.
How many issues of the hockey news are there total then, going that far back?
Last count, I think it's I'm not sure the exact total, but I want to say it's over 2,000. I want to say like 22 or 2,300 or something. For the longest time, it was like 45 issues a year. That's drastically been dropped now. Now it's more of like a glossy magazine, right? There's like 10 issues a year type thing, and it used to be a weekly publication. So it's times have changed.
What vintage are you? What year were you born?
I was born in '88.
Okay. Where did Jerry? You chime in here too, but where does the hockey news fit into both your kind of hockey reading?
I discovered the hockey news at a convenience store one day, and my mind was blown.
Yeah.
Because I as a kid I didn't realize, I was like, holy crap, like a whole publication dedicated to hockey. And from there, right, like I basically, because I collected everything as a kid, I decided at that point I wanted to try to find issues from 5, 6, 7, 10 years previous, and that's kind of where my collection kind of kicked off. So
where did it start? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Alexandria, Ontario. Very small town. I doubt anyone watching will have heard of it, but population about, I don't know, 3,000-4,000. It's basically a main street and a bunch of side roads that kind of branch off. It's sandwiched in between. It's about an hour in between Ottawa and Montreal.
It was the basis for The Walking Dead, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, Alexandria. That's true. Yeah.
Were you a hockey player growing up?
Yeah, I started a little bit. I want to say I started at like 10 or 11. I played roller hockey like since I was young. Uh, but yeah, like ice hockey, I did play for throughout school and high school. Never at like a serious level. I played like midget C. Never like I didn't play like junior B or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I wasn't as good as Jerry Teabag Hack.
Who is? Who is?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
Who is?
I know.
What position did you play?
Center.
Center. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when did this collection start in earnest? Like when?
Pretty much it's a long story. I basically just I subscribed for a couple of years to the Hockey News, and obviously I would get it weekly. And I remember the one time I went with my dad to we took a trip to Cornwall, and we stopped at this little memorabilia shop. We had never heard of it before. It was kind of down like a side road, and we went in, and I found a box overflowing of old Hockey News issues. And at that point, for me, that was like basically hitting the jackpot.
Yeah.
I think the guy was selling them for like $1 a piece or something like that, and I convinced my dad to let me buy about 30 or 40 of them. I would have bought the whole damn box if he would have let me. But yeah, no, and at that time, a kid, like I was 12 or 13, I think, at the time. And for me, it's funny looking back now, like like the issues were only from like 10 years previous, but to me, a kid that age, it's like they may have been from like 50 years earlier. It was like that was vintage to me, and it was like 10 years earlier. But that's kind of where it really kicked off. Like I was accumulating the 30 or 40 issues at that time, and then we'd go back, and I'd get a couple more, and then as I got older, that's I discovered something called eBay, which is the worst thing that could have ever happened to my credit card and my financial situation. But yeah, that's kind of where it kind of started.
Are we thinking kind of early 2000s then?
Yeah, whenever it really kicked into overdrive, like the collecting the Hockey News issues. Yeah, like and I lucked out in the sense that I would utilize eBay, Kijiji. I would put ads saying that like if you have any that you're I will buy 200 issues from you. I will buy one issue from you if it's one that I need. And I really lucked out in the sense that I had a gentleman from Sarnia that reached out to me. This is going back, I don't know, 15, probably 20 years now. But he reached out to me, and he basically sold me in one shot like a 12-year run.
Wow.
So that was that had happened a couple of occasions. And I had early 2000s, I discovered a website. His name is Lee Zatz. He's from Pennsylvania. He had a website called thnsales.com.
Oh, wow.
And he would sell issues of the Hockey News, and he helped me a lot throughout the years. So I had help.
So what was the first actual hockey book that you owned?
Oof. You know what? I don't even know. I had hockey books as a kid. It might be the hockey sweater. The classic kids book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple books as a kid. But my hockey book collecting really kicked into overdrive probably, I don't know, 2008, 2009.
Is this about when you moved out of your parents' place and lived on your own first time?
Yeah. Well, I moved to I lived in Alexandria for the first 18 years of my life. Then in 2007, I moved to Chatham, Ontario. That's where my wife is from, my girlfriend at the time. So yeah, I moved here and got my first job, and we kind of missed those days because we didn't have too many bills or responsibilities. So I would not that I was making I still don't make a hell of a lot of money, but whenever I would make money back in those days, I would essentially, it's like, okay, food, food, rent, and the rest is just going to go on Hockey News and hockey books, and kind of miss those days. I still spend a lot of money on my collection, but I have a lot more responsibilities now. So,
so do you have a favorite
favorite hockey book?
Yeah, well, other than mine, of course.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I guess I'll show you right here. It's
There it is.
yeah, the
Woo!
legend right here. I don't know if you can see it good, but
Oh,
yeah.
that-
So other than Memoir of a Hockey Nobody, probably. I mean, this is going to be kind of a. Oh, looks like I'm kind of blurry now. I guess it's kind of a popular answer, but for me, it's probably The Game, Ken Dryden. It's still, other than Memoir of a Hockey Nobody, yeah, the best hockey book I've ever read. So that's probably my personal favorite. That or even though I'm not a Rangers fan, I've always loved a book called When the Rangers Were Young by Trent Frayne and Frank Boucher. That's one of my favorites ever. So.
and that does that go over their early history or what?
Yeah, it's basically an early Rangers history. It's written like Trent Frayne. He ghost wrote it, but it's Frank Boucher. He basically tells the story of his experiences with the Rangers, and it's just it really paints a great picture of what hockey and what even life was like, back in those days. So.
When did Boucher play?
40s. I think he started in the 20s or 30s, but yeah, this is going old time. So.
That same era. I think it's Ed Fitkin.
Yeah, Ed Fitkin. Yeah.
So he looks at, from what I was reading about you and then him, and just that connect how you've collected some of his books, and he seemed like the kind of go-to back then in like the 40s, 50s.
Yeah, the hockey book publishing wasn't really it didn't really hit off, necessarily until like there was a big, obviously the hockey boom of like the 70s,
Yeah.
with like after expansion and stuff. That's really when hockey books started, you know publishing. It was almost overkill, like because authors, and you can't blame them, but authors were really trying to capitalize and cash in on the hockey boom of like the early 70s. But yeah, before that it was um, like the earliest hockey books that I own. I have a book from Foster Hewitt that was published in 1934.
Wow.
It's called Down the Ice.
Wow.
And then Red Dutton published a book. He had written a book in 1938 called Hockey, the Fastest Game on Earth. So those are the two oldest ones. But yeah, Ed Fitkin, just little tiny, frail. You almost don't want to open them. You almost don't want to like open them and read them too often because it's you're afraid they're going to break at the spine. But yeah, he worked. If I'm not mistaken, he worked as like a publicist or something with the Toronto Maple Leafs or something at the time. And yeah, he wrote a number of books. There's 8 books that he had written, and I've managed to collect them all. And a couple of them are pretty darn hard to find now. So, or if you do find them, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for them. I guess I'll give a little plug to. So I'm a member of the Society for International Hockey Research, and we have a. Uh, Aubrey Ferguson and James Benish, James Milks, a lot of the guys in SIR, they did a great job with there's a hockey publication database that's a part of the SIR website now. And basically it just gives you, like database entries for essentially we're adding to it every day.
Wow.
And it's basically, it's like you could search for a book, like it shows you the ISBN number, it shows you the cover, the author, the year it was published. And in a way, finding that it's like one of the best and worst things that could have ever happened, for my wallet, because I've, just the SIR publications database alone is probably responsible for me adding about another 300 to 400 books in my collection. So over the course of like maybe the past 2 years.
Wow. How is your wife with this? Is she tolerant?
She's
Fair question.
I want to say, she's supportive as she can possibly be. Sometimes I think she wants to give me a swift kick in the ass. But it's no, she's great. Like it's we have, it's kind of funny looking back now. Probably about 10 years ago, we had a joint account that didn't last long. I think I lost my joint account privileges. Still haven't earned the trust back yet, but that's all right because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, as long as obviously priority number one is food's on the table for my wife and my child. The mortgage is being paid, bills are paid, and then the rest goes on my hockey stuff. So.
Yeah, I know my wife. Whenever a book shows up on the doorstep, she hits me with it.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet with my wife. But even my son now, like he'll just say like he's like, Dad, you got another hockey book? Do you really need another hockey book? Like right away when he hears the knock at the door and he knows it's the mailman, he knows it's a hockey book for Dad.
So do you have a prized possession, one that's like you have a shrine to on the top of the mantle or something?
Well, other than memoirs of hockey, nobody. Had to get a couple tips. But no, I mean, there's a lot of I have a lot of rare, hard to find. Obviously, like collecting as much as I do, probably 3/4 of my collection are all like out of print books now. Like the books that you can, like other than obviously scouring like the secondary market, right? Like I have my websites that I check daily, but yeah, no, like I have a lot of I have a little pile over here. I can show you guys if we have the time, like some of my I guess signed books that kind of have like neat little backstories to them.
Yeah, sorry, we don't have the time.
Yeah. Maybe next time.
Craig and I have no life, man. It's just like he's just you just take as much time as you need, Nathan. we're here for you.
We gained an hour this week, so let's use it.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
So
yeah.
What
was that?
What do you got?
Yeah, I'll show you a couple different. So I guess the first one I'll show you this. A couple of years ago. Well, I don't know, probably about a year ago now. I don't know if you guys can see.
Hockey handbook.
Yeah, see, the camera's not really gonna show it properly, but it's Lloyd Percival wrote the hockey handbook. He wrote it so this is a first edition, 1951. At the time that he had written this, people in the NHL circles essentially wrote off Lloyd Percival. Believe it was an NHL coach. I don't know if they ever came out and said who it was, but they had essentially said that it was the product of a 3-year-old's mind. When they kind of crapped all over this, and it was Lloyd Percival. He had basically written what was considered the Bible of hockey at the time. Basically, just everything you needed to know about the game, fitness training. It was just like it was still to this day, like it's a highly sought after book on the collector's market, especially a first edition. But yeah, I don't know if you guys can see right, but long story short is I had bought a copy of this book. I thought it was going to be a second edition. That's what it was advertised as, which obviously value-wise, it's not anywhere close to the value like what it would be if it's a first edition. So to my surprise, when I opened it up, it was actually a first edition. And I don't know if you can see, but it was actually signed
wow.
by Lloyd Percival. I don't know who Robert Fulton is. I now have his book. But yeah, that's it's a first edition hockey handbook signed by Lloyd Percival. I checked online, and it can. I think 1 or 2 of these are online right now, and I'm not saying they're going to get that for it, but I think it's listed at like $1,200 or something. It's a very. I think they're it's wishful thinking on their part, but I guess if they find the right collector,
it's like a Gretzky rookie card.
Yeah, right. I wonder if anyone would want to trade for it, but but yeah. So first edition, signed Lloyd Percival. This is probably, in a way, like the holy grail in my collection. So I really lucked out with that.
So have you actually gone out and had anybody sign a book for you, or?
I know someone.
You what?
I know someone that would sign a book for you.
No,
Yeah, next
I'm
time
trying
I'm
to
in
think.
Chatham, Ontario, I'll
Oh,
drop by.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I actually like thinking now. I probably have about 40 signed books, and I don't think I've actually ever gone out to an actual event to have them signed in person. Uh, it's mostly just been lucking out through the mail, and sometimes like I'll buy from like an author, and it'll come signed. I'll ask
Right.
them to sign it, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I don't think I've actually ever gone to like a signing event to get anything signed, which is kind of weird now that I think about it. But
Have you teabagged? Like
Uh,
for an autograph?
no, but the only time was I wrote about it in the book when my buddy wanted to get Ken Dryden to sign his book, and he was in Regina. He's going to be there for 2 hours. So we got there, big long lineup, and about 10 guys ahead of us was a guy. He had a Montreal hat, Montreal shirt, Montreal jacket, Montreal scarf, Montreal sweatpants, Montreal socks, Montreal shoes, Montreal shoelaces. Like he was just completely decked out in Habs gear. Like it was kind of creepy, and he's with a girl who had no Hab stuff on at all. It's like I don't think she was interested. But anyway, he got up to the table, and then they spoke. We didn't hear what they were saying, but they spoke for a few seconds, and they shook hands, and then he walked away, and our turn came up, and my buddy got the book signed, and he said, well, his brother. It was for his brother, so telling him what a big fan his brother was and whatnot. I just stood there. I didn't say anything to him. And then so when we got the book signed and we turned away, we walked away, and the guy's over in a corner somewhere, and he's bawling, like literally
Wow.
bawling. like I'm sorry, but being a super fan, sure, every team has one. But that's I'm
that's like
sorry, but
next level
that's
Superman.
mentally ill. Sorry, you're taking it a little too seriously. So, you're bawling your eyes out because you met Ken Dryden, 20 years after he retired. So
It probably makes
yeah,
him feel weird too. Like I can only imagine being on the opposite end of that. And, if someone's
yeah.
crying because they met you, right? Like it's like that's gotta be awkward, right?
Yeah, it happens to
glad.
Craig all the time.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of signatures, tell that 88 story.
Oh, the Eric Lindros.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of the cooler things. So that it's kind of a two part. So I have a friend, Tim Beaver, in St. Louis. I think he lives in St. Louis. He's pretty sure he's from Missouri. But yeah, he won I think he won an auction. There was a lot of, I don't know what exactly it was, but he won multiple items, and he knew that I was a big collector of books. And this is probably about 10 years or so ago now.
Yeah.
So basically, it was Ron Caron, who he was an assistant GM. He was a scout in Montreal. He was a former general manager of the St. Louis Blues for a number of years. It was like I think it was like an estate lot or something from Ron Caron. It was like his personal items.
Yeah.
And Tim got two books from Ron Caron that he then was kind enough. I don't know if he regrets it now because it's really cool pieces, but he had given me these two pieces, which are just to this day I still find it's just absolutely incredible. So this one here, this is Eric Lindros before he even stepped on an NHL ice. He had already written, probably the family, right, to cash in. Again, can't blame him. 1991, wrote this book, Fire on Ice. This was, here, I'll see if I can show the camera.
All the best. Yeah.
It's,
wow.
So long story short, it's when Eric Lindros was drafted. Obviously, we all know the story, right? He was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques first overall in 1991.
Wouldn't put the hat on.
Yeah, refused to play for them. I guess the story goes that he didn't want to play for Marcel Aubu. He didn't like the ownership group in Quebec, and so when he was without a contract and he had sat out that year, played for like the Canadian juniors and the Canadian team. He had sent out multiple copies. I don't know if it was to every GM in the league, but he had sent out books. His book to or I don't know if it was everyone, but to multiple GMs in the league. And for every team that he wanted to play for, the story goes is that he included this help at the bottom. The help was basically please trade for me. That's what Tim was told anyways by, I think it was like Ron Caron's nephew or something. He had relayed that message to him. So basically what this means is that Eric Lindros would have been willing to play for the St. Louis Blues at the time because this was from Ron Caron's personal collection, and the fact that he had included the help that means that he would have played for St. Louis. So I just think that's really cool. Like it's a cool story.
Wow,
like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, like it was personally gifted from Eric Lindros to Ron Caron. And a second part of that is, again, if you can see, so this is a first edition American. That's the American cover of the first edition of the game, Ken Dryden. Right. And again, excuse me, I don't know if you guys can read it properly. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Who knows? Loves the game. I hope
for Ronnie. Yeah, for Ronnie, who knows and loves the game. I hope I got it right, Ken.
Wow.
So, yeah. So Ken Dryden. Sorry, it's making the camera blurry. Sorry, guys.
Okay, it'll refocus.
So yeah, Ken Dryden had after he had gotten done writing the game, he had personally gifted this to Ron Caron. Who was like a mentor of his, at the beginning of his career, because he was, I think he was the assistant GM or scout at the time. Whenever Ken Dryden was playing for the Habs. So yeah, it's just really cool. Like two pieces from the players to Ron Caron that are now in my collection. So,
jeez, that's amazing.
Yeah, wow. It's pretty cool. And I guess another, if I could go into just another one here. This isn't from the same.
Getting kind of annoying, Nathan.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Should I stop now? Or?
It's the pool of sharks, is all, Dave. It's all good. It's the pool of sharks.
Yeah, I know, right?
We'll indulge you. Come on, bring it on.
I know, right? I'll try to make this one snappy. So
this is so much better than Teabag Tone stories. I'll tell you that.
I know, right? So this is just a little tiny paperback. It's called "Where Have They Gone?"
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys can see all right, but it's Stan Fischler wrote this. Jerry, I believe you. Obviously, you know Stan Fischler, right?
Yeah. I met him.
Stan is just a wonderful human being.
Oh.
I'm proud to call like Stan a friend. Like I'm in communication with him every now and then, and it's he's a really, really nice guy.
He is, yeah, definitely.
Stan is fantastic. But so this book, long story short, again, is this book was in the personal collection of Don Cherry. Stan, I don't know if you could.
Grapes.
It says to grapes. Let's hope they don't say that to you until the year 2047.
Where have they?
Where have they gone? Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Stan ended up working on Don Cherry's biography with him late 80s, I think it was published. But this was published in 1979. Stan actually gifted this to Don, and it was in Don Cherry's personal collection for a number of years. He had somehow it had gone to a friend of Don. Grapes, and then I knew a guy who bought it from him, and then I bought it from him. So it's kind of gone through multiple people, but that's just another cool little story, right? Like this used to be in Don Cherry's personal collection, so that's kind of a cool little nugget, right?
That's very cool.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I tried to get a hold of Don Cherry through Twitter, but he never got back to me. So surprisingly,
I don't know if Cherry even knows how to use Twitter. I don't know. He's probably got his family. I'm assuming they probably help him. I could be wrong, but I don't know. He just doesn't strike me as tech savvy. I don't know.
Are you on the hunt? Are you on the hunt for anything specifically right now, or is is there another Grail that? Well, I'm sure there's a Grail, but is there something that is next on the?
No, I very much, I'm kind of at that point now where it's like anything I've really wanted, because let's be honest, like self-control is not not one of my strong suits. So I'm very much, if there's a book that I want that's available and it's reasonably priced, and everyone's different, everyone's idea of reasonably priced might be a bit different, but uh, well, what I consider reasonably priced, my wife might not agree is reasonably priced. But no, for the most part, like everything that I really, really want, I've thankfully been able to accumulate over the years. There's still a couple, books here and there that if I can find, but those are essentially books that, like, if it's not on the internet, or it's they're just asking an outrageous amount, right?
So the Society for International Hockey Research, right?
Yeah.
How many books are in that database as of right now?
I mean, there's a lot of like, it's just the entries. I mean, it's got to be 5 or 6 thousand, I think, at last, or no, probably maybe closer to 10,000. I'm not exactly sure, but that's including like media guides and yearbooks and programs, I believe, and like books, like fiction, nonfiction, like it's kind of all inclusive. Anything, it could be a book that like a sports journalist wrote, and if there's one chapter dedicated to hockey, it's in the database, right? So it's there's a lot of so I'll never be able to collect everything that's in that database, but
and nor would you want to.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of fluff out there, so to speak.
Well, I remember the first hockey book that I ever read was I think I was grade 6. No, it had to be earlier than that, grade 5.
1961,
because I took it out of the library at school, and it was actually a novel. It was a novel about hockey, and that's kind of what started me on my
Do you remember what it was
hockey
called?
book journey. Sorry, no, I don't.
What
But
it's called?
the only thing I remember is about a university hockey team, and they were in the championship game, and they got 2 penalties, so they were 2 men down, and the guy said, "You hang around center." And me and whoever will just try and get the puck, and we'll shoot it up. You just hang at center. So
That
only
may have
2
been
guys
one of
defending
Sly
against
Young's
5.
books.
So
I
that's
wonder
the
if that
only
was one
thing
of
I
Sly
remember
Young's
about it.
books. I think he wrote like Leaf. I forget what it's called. It's I know he wrote a popular. See, I don't really collect much hockey fiction. But like Leaf Down Center or something like that. I should know this. I'm gonna have a couple friends that are gonna be a little bit peeved that I'm drawing a blank on the name, because it's a very common book. But
it happens when we get older, Nathan.
yeah, I know,
Trust
right?
me, I draw a blank a lot.
I've been drawing a lot of blanks lately, but I should know the name of this book. I'm just drawing a blank.
It grinds me how Canucks fans are just so bad. Like, just being a charter member of the SAD Club, like they are, like it just.
Well, hey, Jerry, maybe this is your year. I mean, they're looking. They're looking.
Yeah,
good.
the early returns are looking pretty good, but I got a feeling they'll come back to the pack a little bit. Yeah. So
I'm curious to see with Elias Pettersson, right? Like he's going to command a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he even said, right? Like I forget what his exact quote was, but he wants to win.
Right. Freeman.
So I mean, that has to be early positives for him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like I told Craig before, I've played against NHL players, maybe a half dozen or so, and the one thing they all had in common is they are hyper competitive. Like,
yeah.
It's just like they do not like to lose at anything. Like they just, So, I see that in Pettersson. So that he wants to win, and hopefully he does it here. So, yeah.
That St. Louis impact that he's having on the Canadians, I really think Tocchet it was a great choice, and will be the right choice for that team. And further to what you just said, Teabag, from a competitive standpoint, Tocchet's a competitive guy, and that's top down, and he already has those guys dialed in real well. We'll see what happens tonight at 7:00.
Well, the one thing, Tocchet has been a head coach twice before. Every time he's come in halfway through a season, and the second half of the season where he came in, the team improved, and the next season the team made the playoffs, and then the season after that he got fired.
Stanley Cup, third year Stanley Cup in Vancouver, right?
So yeah, we'll see. You know, like I say, he's you know what? I wasn't a big fan at the time. I thought, you know, we need Tocchet the player, not Tocchet the coach, is what I thought. You know, and then but because I thought Bruce Boudreau was a good coach. I really was a big fan of his, and so you know, I thought he was getting thrown under the bus, but you know, we'll see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
kind of, with Tocchet, to me, it almost kind of, it doesn't mimic it, you know, exactly the situation, but in a way, it's almost like a John Tortorella, right? Where he might be kind of like, you know, kind of hard on his players and stuff. The thing with a John Tortorella, right, is he had proven, you know, multiple times that he can come in, he can make an immediate impact. The thing with a John Tortorella is he might not have a, you know, with his style, almost kind of like a Mike Keenan, right? Like he might not have such a high shelf life, but you know, so Tocchet, I don't want to, you know, compare Tocchet to Tortorella, but it could be a situation like that, right, where it's like, you know, he might not be the easiest to play for, but you know, he might not have the longest shelf life. Time will tell. We'll see. But he's proven that he can have an immediate impact on a club, right? So
yeah, no doubt.
Sometimes that's what the team needs, right? Like just a kind of a quick, you know, swift kick in the butt, and that's probably what Vancouver needed, right? Because
well, he's won me over. I you know, I think I think he's definitely the right guy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, that coaches nowadays, they can't. You know, the days of the tyrant coach is over. You know, you got to be. You know, you got to be teacher, psychologist. You know, cheerleader kind of guy, and so
now, right, like athletes in general, you know, they kind of want to be talked up instead of, like, you know, and I get it, like it's a different time, right? Like it's, you know, a lot of the coaches, you know, back in the day, I don't think they would, you know, cut it nowadays, unless they're willing to adapt, right? Just because, you know, a lot of it's the mental aspect of it, and I know like people have strong feelings on both, you know, both sides of that, but yeah, I think it's, you know, to be a coach now, you almost have to, like, don't want to say walk on eggshells, right? But it's you have to, you can't coach.
You're hired to get fired.
Yeah,
you know,
and you have to learn that everybody has a button to push. You have to figure out what that button is, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the art of the deal right there. You know, if you know, in the modern and NHL coach, I remember reading. A coach went from the NBA back to college. I can't remember who it was, but he said he went back to college because he was tired of being the lowest paid guy in the huddle.
I believe it.
So you know, when the boss is the lowest paid guy, it's kind of an ass backwards world we live in.
What's the most you ever paid for a single issue of the Hockey News?
Single issue. I mean, there were a couple older ones that I probably spent maybe over $100.
Okay.
But that's just one issue. Like I bought. I remember when Lee Zatz was. Whenever he was running like the THNsales.com, I had purchased like a 12 or 15 year run, I think it was, or something, and these were issues dating back to, you know, like the mid 50s, throughout the entire 1960s, and this was essentially I probably spent, like, you know, $2,000 or something. It was like $2,500 or something on, which is a lot of money, but considering the amount of issues that I was able to find in one shot, I was like, when else am I going to find that chance to get that again? So that was probably the most I ever spent in one shot. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was in the ballpark of, I want to say, around like 2,500. This was like, you know, 15 years or so ago now. But yeah, that was probably the most in one shot.
Favorite hockey movie?
That's easily, without question, not even close. It's Slapshot. Slapshot is actually my favorite movie of all time. Not even just
Oh,
favorite,
nice.
not
Really?
even favorite
Yeah.
hockey. It's just Slapshot. It's I can watch that every day of my life, and I would never get tired.
I just watched Goon with
Oh yeah,
Sean
yeah. Sean
William
William
Scott
Scott.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Liv Schreiber. And these things about hockey movies is that most of them are great hockey movies if you know nothing about hockey.
I know. I know.
Like Mystery Alaska. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen that one?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
great movie if you know nothing about hockey.
Yeah.
It's like
I thought Miracle was really good. Miracle was
Miracle was
done
well
really
done.
well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I do agree. I do
That
agree
one
with you.
tugs. That one tugs at the heartstrings too.
It's even as a Canadian, right? Like it's like you can appreciate But no, I do agree with your point, Jerry. Like it's I don't know. Like sometimes just some of the and you have to remind yourself it's a movie, right? But some of the on ice scenes, and you're just like that's it's like that's a terror. Like breakouts don't look like that on the
Yeah.
ice, right? Like it's like it's not even like you could tell. Like it's like I don't know if any of these have actually played hockey before, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's
Did you
sometimes
see the original one with Carl Malden and as Herb Brooks and
uh,
that one up?
not sure. Like I've seen the Disney one. The are you talking about Miracle?
Yeah, like there was an original one right after 1980, right after they
Oh,
made
I
a
don't know if I
movie
ever
right away, and Carl Malden played Herb Brooks and whatnot. It was
was
so bad, like
was
it
it
was so
was
bad,
it like
and like
direct to
yeah,
VHS?
and they actually used actors to play the parts of the hockey players,
Oh yeah.
but they made the actors skate. And you could tell none of them had played hockey before.
Yeah.
And he's just like, man, it was so bad. Like,
So
yeah.
are you telling me that Rob Lowe, that wasn't a
Oh,
proper
yeah.
portrayal of a star on a junior team with the
Young
Youngblood?
blood. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The crossovers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry,
I like
when's the movie version of Memoir of a Hockey Nobody coming out?
Ah,
well, you know what? It is actually rubbed up against the Hollywood world. George Grimm,
Yeah,
your friend and
a
mine,
great author.
he was interviewing a Hollywood director for some reason who had just done a hockey movie, and he told her about my book, and she said, well, she had no plans on doing another hockey movie, but if the movie turned into a series, she said they'll need stories, so she'll keep it
Yeah,
in mind. So yeah,
awesome.
and then also my niece is a producer. She does short films, and she's done a couple. She's been on the Hollywood red carpet. She was right next to Elton John one time. And so
Nice. Yeah.
so she's got some contacts and stuff, but it's still the
Yeah.
longest of long shots. But
But,
I think this my other book,
yeah.
Rat Fink, has a better shot. But
Was
we'll
it
see.
Stan
Whatever.
Fischler? I believe gave that a plug. He was saying he really liked it.
Oh, he loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He emailed me every day that he was reading it.
I think he even said he was it. I don't know if he tweeted this or something, but he had said he was on the treadmill or the bike or something one morning, and he was
Yeah.
the guy's like 93, right? And he's still like
I
he still
know.
does the bike,
I
and
know. It's
I'm like
crazy.
that's
Like
awesome.
when I met him, like he he was sitting at the table right in front of the stage, and like there was 15 inductees into this New York State Hockey Hall of Fame induction, and so they all got called up, and every one of them went around to the stairs and up onto the stage, and then Stan gets called up, and he just goes right up. It's about, I don't know, 2 feet
Yeah,
up onto the stage, and so
yeah.
he just takes one big giant
Oh
step
yeah.
and goes up, and
I,
the
I'm
guy's got
convinced
so
Stan
much energy.
will live until he's over 100. Stan is,
Oh,
he's like 90 something, but you'd think he was in his 60s or something. Like he's still as
yeah.
sharp as ever, and
Oh,
it's
so
great to
much
see.
energy. Like once the ceremony was over, I don't think he sat down. He just was talking to
And
everybody. Everybody wanted a piece
and
of him, and
I will say about Stan, I don't think he gets enough credit. Um, as an author, as a journalist. Like he, in a way, Stan Fischler, like back in the 80s and 90s, he was almost like, and I do say this as a compliment, but he was almost like the grapes, the Don Cherry version of journalism. Like
Yeah.
Stan was, like you wouldn't always agree with some of his takes. Like he, swore up and down in the early 80s that Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers would never win a Stanley Cup. And obviously he was wrong.
He thinks Jason Roberts is a better player than Connor McDavid, right?
Yeah, that's I was just gonna say that he wrote that column, and man, did he ever get roasted for that?
Yeah, well, I remember back in 2005 too. He had said Peter Pruka was going to be a better player than Sidney Crosby. He said he would take Pruka over Crosby, so he wouldn't always agree with what he'd say. But Stan knew how to, even whenever he was writing columns for the Hockey News, right? He knew how to bring in the readers. You always wanted to read what Stan, you always wanted to read what he was going to say next, what he was going to write next. But I think he doesn't get the due that he deserves. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He's in the American Hall of Fame. I think just the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. He was inducted a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a shame that he's not a part of the Toronto Hall of Fame.
I know it's mind-boggling.
Was he ever a beat writer for any of the teams?
Yeah, for the Rangers.
He was. Okay. He worked with like the Rangers. He basically started off as like one of the publicists or something back in like the 50s, I think it was, right, with the Rangers. But no, he's been involved in the game for decades, right? Like as an author, journalist, everything. He's done it, everything in hockey, right? So
granted, and the reason that I asked that is that, and I have no data to back this up, but it almost seems like those authors that, like a Terry Jones entering the Hockey Hall of Fame, are beat writers or like daily columnists in a local paper. Was he in one of the local papers in New York, like that kind of a?
I believe Stan and Shirley, I know they covered the they ran the sports section, I believe, to like the Toronto Star for a number of years. I don't know if it was the Star, but it was one of those papers. But I know, no, you are right. That is a good point. Like I know, I believe the Elmer Ferguson, a lot of the winners that the journalists that are like in the hall now, it's basically for like newspaper journalism. But
versus, and I don't mean that to diminish Stan's like catalog and the impact that he's had, but it just seems like you've got to have that kind of line into that nomination.
Because he wasn't just a newspaper journal. Like he wrote for, like countless periodicals, and like you remember, like I'm sure Jerry, like if I don't know if you would read like like Hockey Pictorial and Hockey, like a lot of these hockey magazines and stuff, right? Like I know he would write for them as well. So Stan has kind of written for it all, but yeah, maybe because he's not exactly like a newspaper, specific journalist. But I think too, like a lot of, and I love Stan, but I think some of his takes over the years too, right? Like I'm sure he may have rubbed some people the wrong way too.
Absolutely.
And that's that's Stan. Like I'm sure he wouldn't change a thing. But
well, that hockey hall of all the professional sports is the most, or is the least transparent as far as qualifications on what it takes or what the expectation is to qualify for the nomination and then to actually be voted in. So I mean that the politicking, I would imagine has hurt him over the years, as you say.
Yeah, well, yeah, because all it takes is 2 or 3 people or something, right, on the induction committee, right? Like if they, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but I'm just saying, like it would only take a couple people to, if they say, like we don't want him on it, right? Like it's the only thing I can think of, because I think he, I think he absolutely deserves it, but there's other people that wouldn't put him in, right? Like there's always going to be 2 sides to that. So
how many Stan Fischler books do you have?
Over 100, all pretty much every.
Yeah, all of them.
I was looking. Yeah, I was looking through the SIR publications database, and excuse me. I believe I might have every single hockey book he's published. He's written. So I'll have to check to make sure. But yeah, I think it's like 112 or something like that. He's written. Yeah, he's written a lot of. He's written a lot. Nobody's written more. Brian McFarlane comes close. But Stan is
Yeah,
Here.
the standard bearer. He's
Yeah.
Have you got any of his Subway books? He's written about subways.
I don't actually, but no, I've seen that he's written, yeah, like
Yeah.
he's written on more than just hockey, which is awesome. No, this has
Well,
been really cool, guys.
Nathan, gotta thank you. That what a treat this has been, having a yak about I think things that we all love, and hearing some of those stories and hockey and books. So it sounds like we're all on the right track here. Love to have you back.
No,
Yeah,
for sure.
thank you,
I
Nathan.
really
This is
appreciate it.
yeah, this has been awesome. So
Yeah.
surprisingly, you're a nice guy. Being a
I know,
Habs
right?
being a
I
Habs
know.
fan and all.
I know. We're not all terrible. We're not all terrible. No, this is literally my first time ever doing anything like this, so I hope I didn't talk your guys' ear off too much.
No, not at all. Well, Craig and I have a we let the guests talk as long as they want, and then they tell us when they've had enough. So
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
and then
maybe in the future or something like that, if maybe I can come back on or something for another chat sometime down the road or something one day.
you
Like it's
fucking kidding? Forget it.
after you guys go big time.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back, Nathan.
Yeah, for sure. Have you read this one?
I haven't. I have not read. I read one of his other books, James Duthie. He wrote Beauties as well. Haven't.
Yeah, I've read Beauties was awesome. This one is hilarious.
Yeah, he's funny too.
Yeah, he is hilarious. So
He's not too bad funny, but he's funny.
Yeah, he's gonna come on. We got him lined up.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
yeah, so gonna get to talk to him. Yeah, so
nice.
Yeah, okay. So for being a guest on our show, just email me your address and I will send you a copy of Jack Rat Finks.
Awesome.
I know it's not a. Yeah, I have to apologize because everybody in this book hates hockey. So
make sure you sign it, Jerry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll sign it. Yeah,
yes.
I'll sign it.
To the autograph.
First edition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll sign it, Eric Lindros.
Yeah. Help.
Help. Yeah.
No, that sounds good. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been great, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem, Nathan. Thank you. And yeah, keep in touch, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again, guys. Take
All
care.
right. Okay. We'll see you.
Yeah, bye.
Oh, good guy.
Great fun. Yeah. It'd be fun to have him back and talk about books and stories and that a lot of people wouldn't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure he's got a ton of stories though and whatnot. So I want to talk Oilers. Oh, what
you don't have a ton of time. I'm locking into that hockey game tonight.
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, it starts at 7 or 7:30?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. So, is something rotten in Denmark there, you think? Or is just this
I think it starts in the back end. I think that team is close. I think that zone D, the development of that and the implementation of it, I think everybody's trying to figure it out, but they're just making stupid mental defensive mistakes. And especially if you were saying after they get up a goal or get up and then something happens. And then it was much like you in the playoffs playing, like just we'd get up 2 and then you just make that save. I'm looking to make that save and I think that team is close to thinking, losing confidence that either one of those two guys can win the game right now.
Yeah. Yeah, because neither one of them has looked. I mean, Campbell has had a couple of good games.
Yeah.
Skinner has been kind of average.
Yeah.
Consistently average, from what I've seen, and yeah, I was just thinking maybe this zone defense that you think maybe they're thinking too much, instead of just reacting like they would.
Sure, yeah, like I think that's all part of it, but just kind of stupid mistakes. I don't think Connor. I mean, they haven't played well 5-on-5 on the whole. And I think that difference between Vancouver and Edmonton, I mean, the top players are playing top. And I mean, obviously Connor was hurt, but I'm also very confident that I think Edmonton will get it squared around. But I think you nailed it on the head there. Consistently average. is the goaltending that most NHL teams need. And I think they're going to give, I hope they give Skinner a run here, and just the flipping back and forth that I think when they see Campbell's name up there, the guys are just like, oh, what kind of game are we going to get?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
exactly. So yeah, when you don't know what you're going to get from from your goalie, it's kind of hard to focus on what you're doing. You end up trying to do too much, and then cover up, and yeah, so it's a struggle for them right now. And Draisaitl is struggling. Like, has he scored yet this year? Has he go? Because
oh yeah.
I saw him miss on a power play one time where he hit the side of the net, and that's that's his bread and butter. That usually last year that was in every time, and so he just seems to be just that little bit off, and with Connor McDavid's injury there, I thought they had it turned around when they beat Calgary in the Heritage Classic there, and so they look good, and they seem to be back to their regular selves again, and then bang bang, two straight losses.
Dallas and Nashville, and they should have. They should have won that Nashville game, I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And full disclosure, they should have beat Vancouver in the home game, the 4-3 game. They should have won that game. They should have been up by 5 goals in the second period. That Casey DeSmith just played out of his head, and they were so dominant. It was scary. Like, the Canucks couldn't even touch the puck, let alone get control of it. Like, what were the shots in that one period? It was like 20-5 or something. It was like,
it was incredibly lopsided.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm just like,
what I think,
pulling my hair out.
I'll find the record Vancouver and Edmonton over the last 5 years, and I'll bet you Vancouver has a winning record, or it's close to 500. Either way.
Well, yeah, it that wouldn't surprise me. I guess Vancouver's always played Edmonton tough, but yeah. So anyway, another thing that bothers me is I was thinking about talking about things what I hate, and if I was a coach of any team,
just not because we're going to Google. The Canucks have a 7-9-3 record against the Oilers between November 2020 and November 2023. So a losing record, but
right.
I mean, that's Edmonton's leaving points on the board against a team that they theoretically should win.
Exactly. Yeah. True.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you there.
That's okay. Just things that bother me about about the NHL. The fighting after a good hit we talked about, but the one thing I've noticed too is like players playing referee. When they think it's offside and they put their hand up in the air, like, like if I had a player do that, I would bench his ass. Like, you're not the referee. Don't try. That's what cost Luongo in that playoff game when he played so great, and then he thought there should have been and he raises his hand right as Niedermayer shot from the point, and it went in, and that eliminated them from the playoffs. And he had just stopped like 55 shots or something, but still, that one moment of not not paying attention, and it costs you. I'm seeing it seemingly every game. Players are when there's a what they think is a penalty, they're putting their hand up or looking at the referee or stuff like that. Like, stop it. It's just like, stop it. You're not the referee. Either he's going to call it or he's not. What you do is not going to affect him one way or the other.
That's that mental side of the game. Hey, that as much as the Oilers are a formidable foe, mentally, I don't think they're where the skill and mental toughness is. and comparatively, say to a team like the Knights, that's a mentally strong team.
Oh,
It's a
God,
Tampa.
is it ever?
That's a Tampa tough team. It's a Boston tough team. Those teams that have regularly competed at for the cup have that strength. And I think, say Toronto, I think that Toronto's. I mean, it's cliche, and I'm not coming up with this, but the guys that they brought in, that grit and greasy and sandpaper, it's not there. And so if they course correct too far, and similar to what you're saying about like, what are you going to worry about? Like, worry about your shift, worry about versus what the referee's doing. The same kind of thing is that it'll be interesting to see these teams mentally. And I think Vancouver's mentally tough right now. I think they're mentally sharp right now.
Well, yeah, and like, first half of last year, in that 2-0 game against Dallas, they would have lost that game.
Yeah.
And they I can't remember how many times they blew like 2-0, 3-0 leads. Like, it just seemed to happen all the time. And just like, just a very mentally fragile team. And I don't see the Oilers being that way. I just think, just for some reason, teams go on stretches like this, and then there's no rhyme or reason to it. And it's not like Woodcroft became a bad coach all of a sudden. But like you say, they are implementing a shift change in the defensive structure. And so, it might be players are just thinking too much, and they'll get over it. I mean, they got too much talent to not.
Bad. And Echo missed training camp, which I think is big. I think him and Bouchard are kind of getting their stuff together. Bouchard's been terrible defensively. That's those kind of things. And all of a sudden you grip the stick. Enter the cliche here, but it's they gotta right the ship pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, they play the Canucks tonight, and if they win, that it's a good sign. But if they lose to San Jose, you're gonna see some changes made. So
that won't happen. I actually think tonight is going to be. I would say tonight's going to be a pretty close game. I think it's going to be. I mean, again, if we get average goaltending, we should win. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a more even game than we've seen between these two for a long time.
Yeah, but the other surprises to me are like the Maple Leafs. They should be doing better. Calgary is really, really struggling. I didn't expect that, and the Boston and Vegas, being basically unbeatable. I thought for sure Vegas would have the Stanley Cup hangover, but they just look so solid right up and down the lineup. Like, they just roll those four lines and they don't ever change their game. And and man, it's crazy how good they are. I mean, surprisingly, they lost to Anaheim last night after being up 2-0 in the third period. But that, I think they just took their foot off the gas and thought the game was over.
You're gonna have those games over 82 games, but I don't Toronto, Calgary, something's not right in those rooms. It's not strong enough. And you think of I don't think Calgary's Markstrom hasn't been the same since. I might have said this 100 times, but I don't think Markstrom's been the same since Edmonton lit him up in the playoffs. It's taken him this long to turn the corner. I think he's got his game back, but that addition by subtraction in that room, I think it's just been that level of chaos kicking around Calgary for a little while right now. And I don't think that's easy to correct. I mean, look at the Canucks, the chaos over the last couple of years. And Finally, there's some top down. Okay, chaos is done. We're finished with that. It's all about effort. If you're not getting the effort, you're gonna sit. Yeah, if the coach controls
The ice time.
on ice, and the players control their effort. So
yeah, you got to earn your ice time. I mean, that was always Travis Green's mantra. Just everybody had to earn their ice time. Yeah. So, well, it's been interesting so far. A lot of surprises, both good and bad, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I'm hoping that the Canucks can keep the wave rolling. We deserve it.
Oh God, that's such a Canuck fan. We deserve it.
We deserve it. God damn it!
Not to be in the sad club. Well, put together a proper team then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right, pal. That was fun.
Yeah, it was for sure. I'll be talking to you in over the next couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.